Good evening, Book War community. I hope I find you well. We're going to just sit on here for a little bit, wait for, oh gosh, my hair got a little messy. Hattie to pop on. Oh, there she is. Let me invite. There we go. Hopefully you all are having a nice evening. If you're not in Minnesota, I hope you're having a nice warm evening. Hey, sis.
Hey, how you doing?
I am pretty good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Just trying to get my camera right here. See my head. There we go. Okay, if I back up, that helps. There we go. So, the Eagles won. I don't know.
Oh, did they? Congratulations. So what does that mean?
They are going to the Super Bowl.
Oh, well, yay! Milo and Zeke will have the... Very impressive.
Yeah.
Milo and Zeke will have the Eagles to cheer for at the Super Bowl then.
Yes.
Who are they going to play?
We don't know yet. They are playing right now. The Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Cincinnati Bengals in Kansas City.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Bengals have made it to a Super Bowl playoff. Things have changed in the football world since I last paid attention.
Yeah, and clearly that was like since before last year because they went to the Super Bowl last year.
Did they?
They lost, but they did go, yeah.
Well, as you know, I'm a real sporty person.
Not saying, but I know you don't pay attention to it, and so that's totally okay because no one cares.
Well,
except for football people. But I'm super excited because it's our team and they're going to the Super Bowl. So it's
that is exciting.
Yeah,
and I usually do know who goes to the Super Bowl because it's the one game I go to because a friend of ours hosts it, Josh. But he hasn't hosted it the last couple of years because of, COVID. And flu season, we live in Minnesota, there's like no air flowing. But we are, if everything goes well, we're having one this year. So I will know between the Bengals and the Chiefs.
Yep, one or the other will be playing the Philadelphia Eagles.
Hattie's very excited. I know.
It's exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
My boys will actually be very happy because the Eagles is their favorite football team because Uncle George and Tia Hattie like the Eagles. So,
well, see, those kids are just smart. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. You got smart kids.
I mean, I think they have figured out that they're supposed to like the Vikings because they live in Minnesota and like all their friends like the Vikings. And our friend Cheryl likes the Vikings.
Yep.
And we went to a Vikings game.
Yes, you did. I know. That's impressive. Yeah.
I was the one who knew the most about football.
Which is only slightly horrifying. Only slightly horrifying.
Super horrifying. Yeah. But anyway, sorry. Yeah. We digress.
Let's talk books.
But congratulations one more time. Okay, so tonight we are really just kind of talking about some of the things that we have just finished reading, we are currently reading, just kind of a current up to speed. And Hattie's going to bring us up to speed on some of her goals, because mine were just like, read. So yeah, do you want to go first, sis?
Yeah, I'll go first. Okay, so first up, one of the books that I read from the author was a woman from Morocco. Right. It's back at the library, so I don't have it to show. Right. But it was called, now I'm going to see if I can remember it, something Trespass. What was it? Of course, now I can't remember.
Well, yeah, that's fine.
That's right. I didn't write that one down. I wrote so many down, but not that one. Anyway, it was a great book. And I have to say, I really do enjoy just hearing voices and hearing stories and really feeling interactive with settings that I'm not used to, in the sense that this is just a completely sort of different, a different culture, a different, even just the culture of the city, that she lives in is very different. This particular book also takes place in the 1940s, during World War II. So of course it's going to be different in that sense as well. But but just hearing different voices, and I do love different voices from different times as well. I don't love modern literature. Things written in my lifetime, I'm that's kind of dull, So for me, it was kind of the perfect book to sort of start off my little sort of journey around the world to places that I've never been and I don't know much about. Yeah, so that was a good one. And then the other, so that was my first goal. Morocco was January. And then the second
was your January destination? Morocco.
Was Morocco, exactly. And then the other one of my goals was to read some literature by Nobel Prize winners, Nobel Literature Prize winners.
Right.
So this is the one that I chose. It's called Snow, which I thought was also very perfect for this time of year. Oh, no, it's called Snow Country. It's called Snow Country. My bad. Snow Country. I don't know what to say about it yet. I'm this far, so I'm like halfway through.
Okay.
It's a Japanese man who's the author, and I might be. This is what I feel like is happening. Is I am not very familiar with like Japanese culture and like just like sort of cultural norms and like how people behave and like the social structures. I'm not particularly familiar with that. And so I do feel like there might be things that I'm maybe like missing because I'm not familiar with sort of the depth of what's sort of going on in the narrative. So I do feel like maybe that's what's going on because I'm not loving it. I'm not hating it, but I'm not like, oh, I really want to pick that up.
Well, I mean,
you know, yeah.
Nobel laureate. They're like, they're a little up here sometimes.
They are. Well, and that's the thing. And that is honestly like why I think maybe I am sort of like missing some of the subtlety and some of that like that stuff that like maybe if I was more familiar sort of with Japanese culture and and the social structures and how all that stuff sort of works, maybe I would like get more out of this story.
Particular story.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but like I said, I don't hate it. I'm reading it and it's fine.
Well, and
but I'm not like
I feel like the translation. It's a translation.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And I do think it was written a while ago, which could also be, so the copyright on this was 1956.
Okay, so you're working, a lot of things working against you in some of that, but
there could be some other stuff going on there as well. So, but it's good to be writing something different, you know, that like obviously I would never pick this up, you know, for any other reason. So, so that's good. And I don't hate it or anything. But I'll have to report back, you know, like once it's done, if I feel like, oh, okay, maybe I did get it by the end. Or maybe I'd be like, well, yeah.
And there are those books too that you really don't understand until you're done. And then you like wonder, like, should I read it again? Do I read it again?
Do I want to put that effort in? This one, thankfully, this one is like pretty small. It's like maybe
that's a nice,
just 150 pages. It looks like 170. So not a huge commitment, which is nice since I'm not like 100% sold on it. But anyway, those were like my two kind of goals. So January is going pretty well for that for me. So
good.
That's what I would say about that.
I am realizing that my hair is the same color as my walls now.
She's not bald, folks. She's not bald. She just has white hair like the white wall.
I do not like in this anyway. Fine. I just am like it looks. I got it freshly dyed.
It looks so good when it's done too. It looks amazing.
Yeah, but also very strange against basically the gray white walls. But so my one goal. My one intention for 2023 was to read more nonfiction, and so towards that goal, I did just want to do a shout out that I thank you to the book war community for picking my first nonfiction of 2023, which was Life in the City of Dirty Water, and it is one of the prettiest covers of all time. Like honestly, it is one of the most beautiful covers of a book I've ever had. There's some beautiful covers out there. Memoir by Clayton Thomas Mueller. I did a whole talk on it last Sunday if you want to hear that, but that was one of my goals. And if you like memoirs, I definitely recommend. If you are interested in Indigenous stories, like a life story of an Indigenous man from Canada, definitely, who becomes an activist and is an activist currently. So definitely worth your time if those things interest you. I'm now reading my next nonfiction that I just started, which is a recommendation from a friend of ours, which is called Winners Take All, The Elite Charade of Changing the World, which I did not figure out how to say this man's name, this journalist's name. So I'm just going to hold it there, and I'll figure it out for the next time.
Okay. I can't read it backwards.
It's backwards as well.
Me, so.
Anand. Giri Haradas.
Okay.
Yuda Haradas. I think that's right. Close. I'm not very far. I'm only like 50 pages in, but it is so good. And I was just talking with Amy yesterday about it a little bit, and he's a journalist, so he writes really well. So it's one of those nonfictions that you're like, oh, this is really interesting, and like you want to keep reading it. And so I'm very excited about this particular book.
That's fantastic.
The other strange thing that I've started doing, and I didn't do it on purpose, but it did happen, is I'm actually reading quite a bit of anthologies of stories, of short stories. So I finished Land of Big Numbers, which was by a Chinese American. And then I am currently listening to, I have the physical book, but I'm currently listening to How Long Until Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin. And then I just realized I picked up another one from the library that is, I think it's on the res or off the res, one of the two, and it's indigenous stories, short stories. So I don't know why all of a sudden I've decided to do that. It was not, these books, the first two have been on my shelves, and then that one happened to come across on a book list, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting, and the library had it, so I reserved that. So that seems like another little interesting thing I'm currently doing with my reading. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. But sometimes you don't do these things intentionally, but then somehow it sort of happens, and then it's like, oh, this was kind of great, you know? Like that's
go through little phases. Yeah. So what else are you reading?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go off it because you brought up a couple indigenous books that you read, and both Hannah and I have read. Maybe Hannah's read it a couple times. Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and I read it last year, and I was so excited about that book. When we read it, like the whole first half was just like I loved it. I was so excited to try to incorporate it into some of the classes that I teach. I teach at Villanova and at St. Kate's University, and I was like just really excited to like incorporate some of what she is doing in that first half of that book into my classes. And so I have 2 new classes this semester at Villanova, and I just happened, actually I think it was content posted about this book. And I saw it on Content's their feed, and it's Braiding Sweetgrass for Young Adults.
That's awesome.
And I picked this up this week, and I am thrilled with it. The chapter that I wanted to use like in just a couple weeks, I like picked it out of the original, which I have too. The original Robin Wall Kimmerer Braiding Sweetgrass. And I picked out this chapter. I'm like, yes, it's when she's talking about her going off to college and like figuring out what she wants to do. So I'm like, this is kind of perfect for my students who are like just going off to college, right? But there's a same chapter, but it's a little bit more condensed. It's a little shorter in here. And then it has a lot of like sort of those thinking points, those things that you want the students to think about as they're going, but you're pretty sure they're not going to. They're just going to try to get through it. But they're incorporated into little bubbles, like on the sides of the pages and stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah, so visually, it's the asters and goldenrod chapter, you know. So you look at it, oh, here's some pictures of some asters and some goldenrods. And then there's like, you know, little points like this along the way. So I'm very excited to actually use the chapter out of this one for my students.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
And I'm thrilled with this. So for any educators who are like working with young adults, even like, you know, high school students that are maybe juniors or seniors or college age kids, you know, even in like a Sunday school setting or anything like that, like she's got some brilliant stuff.
Really good point.
Really, really brilliant things. For science, for religion, for any sort of like crossover between the two, which is really what I'm trying to do in my class. She's got some good stuff, so I highly recommend picking up either the Braiding Sweetgrass for Young Adults, which is just, I'm thrilled to be using that in my class with my college students, or the original one, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, that may work maybe a little bit better for like an adult, you know, education class.
Right.
So anyway, that was just like a super exciting thing that happened this week.
Very cool. First, shout out to Beth Carlson.
Hey, Beth.
Hey, Beth. And to honestly, Braiding Sweetgrass, if you are an adult or want to read the adult version, if you're a spiritual person or if you do any sort of a like devotional practice, I would also say it does lend itself very, very, very well to that sort of reading and reflection.
Yeah.
If that interests you. If that's not your thing, it is still worth your reading. And I think the second time I read it through, I think it's like the first 2/3 of that book are fantastic. And it's not that it's bad at the end, but it's just not as captivating. I think that's the way I'm going to say it. It's not as captivating, but it is still well worth any time that you're willing to give to it.
And to be fair, we read this for our book club, and most of us really appreciated the first part a little bit more, but there were women in our book club who very much loved that last third as well. So I'm just saying, like, that's very true for me and Hannah, but that's not necessarily going to be true for everybody. There were a number of people in our book club who very much appreciated the book start to finish.
Yeah.
But they
and really I really thought Hattie was going to hate it. So. And
I didn't. I really, really didn't. I'm like that person who doesn't do like the spiritual stuff, the meditation stuff, the, you know, devotion stuff. That's not my bag at all. But what she's doing in here, I think, is just so important to just developing our own like conceptions of this world and figuring out how to live in this world with one another in a peaceful way, and not just with each other, but like with the world, with the environment, with all of creation, exactly, which is super important to me. So so she spoke as well.
So we haven't talked about a ton of nonfiction, or not a ton of fiction. So I was just going to say.
But you're going to be excited about mine when
I'm excited. But this is my fiction that I just finished, which is called Uprooted by Naomi Novik. It was a recommendation from a dear friend of mine who I love, and but this is, it's good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a problem at all. I have to stop. I have to stop myself from reading fairy tale things now. I need to accept that fairy tale-esque, like fantasy, yes. And fairy tales fall in that, and they are really like targeted a lot right now towards fantasy readers. Like, I just don't care enough. Like, you know, you have to like love your characters, like, and you want to like care about it. And I don't know where the line is. I really, really don't. It's a really difficult line to like cross because there's wizards and it's magic, but like for some reason it has a fairy tale feel versus like a fantasy feel, and I don't know the difference. I'd have to like really have a hard conversation about that, which I have not done. Good, enjoyed, not a problem at all. Solid 3-star book for me. Like,
what's it called? I can't actually read the title.
It's called Uprooted.
Uprooted. Like, okay, it's because it's backwards for me as well, but then the text is also weird. So Uprooted.
Yeah,
okay,
it's Uprooted. So if you do like fantasy, fairy tale-esque books, definitely go for this one. I think it's very, very good. And I liked her. She also just finished her graduate series, which is about this dark heroine, which I really loved the first one, and then it kind of like, it was a trilogy, and that kind of like got done with it. But she does have really quirky, fun female lead characters. Yeah. So I also like, I got to give her like a little extra for like, these are like cool people. She does have some pretty cool people, but that's the only, I mean, my short stories have been nonfiction, or have been fiction, but this has been my only fiction novel for the whole one.
That's crazy, Hannah. That's kind of like, that's wild, actually. So, in the same vein, though, as this is my fiction, and I also, you may cry when I say this. I'm not very far yet, though.
Okay.
I don't love it yet.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, that's okay. Okay. You might not, I might be wrong. You might not love it. You're wrong.
But I'm only this far. I'm only like 140 pages in.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is Babel.
Yeah.
By R.F. Kuang. Babel. Which I did see originally, like in a flyer, and I'm like, yes, I absolutely want to read this book. I think I might have mentioned it to you, and then you went and found it and bought it, and this is actually your copy, of course.
Yeah.
And I don't even know like what. I don't love it yet. I don't dislike it.
No, it's a little early for you to love it yet. Okay. Only 150 pages in.
I got a long way to go. So
it's a long way to go, and it is epic, right? Like,
okay,
and it's one book, and it's a standalone. Yeah. So it does take this is what I want to say about that sometimes. I think this is what happens in the fantasy world right now is like there's like always a trilogy at least. I mean, if not at least a duology, right? You can't just do like one single book. You can't write
one thing. You got to write at least,
But I think part of that is because in that longer, they have a particular arc, and so they're following that arc in that bigger narrative. But then what happens is you get really good character development. Like you get like deep character. And this book has incredible character development, but it takes time, like literal time, as well as like actual book time as well.
Yeah.
And you do get there, and you might not get there, and that is okay. You're wrong. It's a fantastic book. Regardless of what Patty Bergstrom thinks, it's a
No. I'm absolutely, I believe you 100% that like this is a great book because, and I don't dislike it. I don't even want to say it. Like, it's not like that at all.
And that's the thing, right? We read so much.
Me yet. That's more what it is. It just hasn't hooked me yet.
No.
The hook just hasn't got into me. But I've got a long ways to go. So, so there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time. And I've heard so much good stuff about this book. And the themes, I can already see like the themes that are coming out, which are like so important. I can't even, I don't want to ruin it.
And she does a really good job of like being clear about themes in that, because that's the other thing that sometimes can happen with books that I love, like post-apocalyptic or speculative fiction. Sometimes themes are a little bit more obtuse. Yeah. There's nothing obtuse about the themes that she's hitting in that book, and I think that that's part of its magic. Yeah. Is it's like, no, we're going to talk about this.
We are going to talk about this and the issues here. Yeah.
And in speculative fiction, like if this happened in this sort of way, if colonization looked like this and had this sort of a thing in the center of it, this would look different. And it is well worth time, even if you don't love it. Yeah. For what it is engaging in the conversation, it's engaging in a really creative and
interesting way. The story is interesting. Right. It's not like it's not interesting. I'm literally just saying she hasn't got her hooks into me yet. That's all. Yeah. But it's still early on. But I also think like so far the one sort of she's already talked about a lot of important things. But one of the things that she's really sort of hammering home right now is this idea that sort of the comfort of participating in the systems while you also understanding that they hurt, like being a participant in that system hurts other people, and the complexity of that, right? The complexity of being a participant in that system and benefiting from the comfort and the safety that you have being a part of that, but then also like really sort of struggling with that, like your own conscious. It's like, this is harming other people.
And myself. Yeah. In the midst of this, but like I'm still buying into it because it's and at one point in this it'll come to the point you're not probably there yet, but you can probably extrapolate this. But that when you grow up in that system, it becomes the right thing. It becomes the good thing. It becomes your value set. Yeah. And to break from that when that's the only thing that you've seen for so many years is like the way, it's really complicated and really difficult and
scary, right?
And,
I mean,
right.
I mean, these particular characters, like if I didn't have this, they'd be on the streets. Like these are sort of like the only two options that he's familiar with.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like when you do there's no middle way in that particular system for him.
He can't envision something else because he like hasn't been exposed to it and doesn't understand what that even could look like.
I will tell you this. This is this won't be a spoiler, but I remember when it first came out and there was a bunch of buzz on like the Bookstagram people I follow, on the YouTube, the booktubers I follow, huge, and everybody loved it. But one of the things that they kept talking about was like the big crying scene. And so I read this book and I'm like, and I don't actually cry very often in books. I really don't. Yeah. So I'm not actually, but I never cried at it. Just so you know, I was like, gosh, you guys have a lot of feelings.
But have I hit it yet? It wasn't the beginning, right? It wasn't that beginning thing.
No, it's not the beginning. No. Okay. I was not expecting that would be a spoiler for you because you don't really cry at things either. But so I was like really like gearing up for like this big like emotional moment. And I'm just going to tell you, like, just read the book and there are some emotional things because this is like emotional stuff.
Yes.
You know, there are things, but I'll be shocked if you cry over it.
Oh, it's usually gonna be like the Marvel movie all over again. I was like so mad about it because everyone was like, it was so upsetting. It was not the last.
The first Avengers.
Yeah,
the first Avengers.
Anyway, I can't even remember. But anyway, I was so mad about it. I was like, okay, that was not. There was no reason to even shed a tear. Like, how could? Anyway, I'm not even gonna start on that because
I mean, Hattie, we'll be here till 9 if you start on that particular rant.
Start on that, so I'm not gonna do. But I think you can probably rest assured that I probably won't cry. If I do, I'll let you know though.
No, I will be shocked, and I will have to come on and do my shocked face because I will. Okay. But yeah,
I'll probably get to the end of the book and I'll be like, I have no idea what the cry.
No, you'll know.
Oh,
I mean, I knew, and I was just like, I feel like you guys got real.
Like, more into it.
Yeah, and then I kind of felt a little bit bad, and you know, but that's okay. Like, and I honestly don't cry very often in books, so that's not that. Yeah. It takes a lot to get me to cry in a book.
Yeah, I'm trying to think the last book that I cried at, and I'm trying to like think about that. I do. Oh, probably Being Mortal, because that one does usually make me cry. The moment, the one that makes me cry is the woman who's the young woman who dies in the hospital. Do you remember this? And it was her husband's reactions and him talking about it. That like.
Well, it's because she got pregnant.
Yeah.
Too.
Maybe that's. Yeah, I can't remember.
There was a lot in that one. You're right. I probably cried at that one when I listened to it every time.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
The last book that I ugly cried.
Ooh, which was
I mean, it was quite a few years now, but it was I can see the cover. Women of the Sea Women. It's a novel, but it's about these women divers in Southeast Asia, and it's about it's historical fiction.
Okay. Yeah.
And Mom read it, and it's a really good book.
Yeah, no, it sounds super interesting. I wonder how this.
But I listened to it. I don't think I have it anymore. I think I gave it away. Sorry, but I was listening to it and I was cleaning and I had to stop and sit down in our living room and I was like bawling. And Lainell comes in and he can't see that I have my headphones on. He's like, "Oh my God, what's wrong? What happened?" I'm like, "This is but it's really sad. I can't deal with it." It was a real ugly cry. It was bad. And I think that's been that could have been during the pandemic still. Yes. But Isle of the Sea Women. I think
I feel like this is very familiar. I actually think that I maybe picked up this book at the bookshop and read the back.
Island of the Sea Women.
Never actually bought it.
And it's really pretty blue. It is a fantastic novel. Okay. It's fantastic, and it taught me a ton about. I think it was the Korean War.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So, and I didn't know, and I have still very little information.
Yeah. Everything I know, I learned from that book. But
yeah, and the other one was Song Poet, which is a memoir.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that one I actually was listening to. I had to pull over. That's the only book I've ever had to pull over for because I was crying so hard I had to stop driving.
Ooh, yeah, that's intense. Mm-hmm.
By Cao Kalia Yang, and that one was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I was also just going to say that this is what I'm currently reading. I just started it tonight. Have you started it yet?
Okay. I'm going to tell you, here's the thing. Poetry is good for, the moment that I'm reading it, and then it's
right.
I read it, and I'm like, oh, this is really great. I love it. And, literally, if you asked me about it when I walked into the kitchen, I'd be like, oh, it was really good. And you'd be like, what was it about? And you're like,
well,
the pandemic.
That's not the point. That's the point of poetry.
Stick with me. It just doesn't stick with me. That's all I'm saying.
Well, but I don't think that that's untrue of me either. I think that poetry is a moment. It's
great. If that's what it's supposed to be, then it's nailing it hard. Because in the moment, I'm like, this is so great. And literally I close the book and it's I don't think about it again. And for me, that's weird. I just feel like you should be mulling over it. It's deep. It's important. And
no, there's actually a line in one of the poems. I'll have to find it now because I read it and it was something about what poetry is and it was something in this kind of to this point of it's like plucking a string in a particular moment and that's it. And if it can do that, then it's good, and it does, you know what I mean? Like it's more about an experience, and that's why poetry is also like so subjective.
Right.
I mean, there is like objectively bad poetry in the world, but I think poetry in its essence is about, for me anyway, I've always read it this way and hope people read it this way, as an ability to get into the I'm going to lose the word, the transcendental. Writing, right? Like a way to experience the transcendence, to experience transcendence through the written word. That's poetry for me. Like, and some of them do that, some of them don't. Some of them do make you think, like I do love. Have you gotten to the Essex one?
I read all of them. I finished it.
Oh, you finished it?
Yeah.
I just love.
I mean, like literally, you said that, and I don't even. Oh, the whale one. Oh, okay, yeah.
This is like seriously such a beautiful poem to me. And I do love her play with form.
Yeah, she's fun that way.
But like there's whole parts of this, like I won't even write on it because it just like, because every time I read it, it's just different. Yeah. So like I refuse to even write on it. I write on every book in the world, but I won't write on a poem that I want to come back to.
Gorman's like whale poem. I love it.
Apparently, yeah, that's your crazy sister. But so we are reading this week for our book club on Thursday.
Yeah.
If anybody would like to join us, and tell us what your favorite one is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I will say the one, and you won't be surprised that this is the one that I like, because it was like historical documents that she like kind of rewrote. I'm like, I kind of love that a little bit. And it was like the guy who was, he was in the military, and he's like, writing he wrote these letters, and then she just sort of like rewrote them. And of course that's the one that like actually, if any of them did stick with me, like I do at least remember like the big picture of like what that was all about, like what it was about, and like that's probably the only one that I like off the top of my head. Even looking at them, like, I literally read every word in this book. I'm not even.
No, I'm sure. They're moments, and they hit or they don't. It is interesting to reread it again. So I read it a year ago. Yeah. Just a year ago? Yeah, just a year ago. But even reading the first section, I just got through the first section, which is Requiem, which is very much about the pandemic, right? It's like even a year later, I'm like, man, are we forgetting? Like, are we already forgetting so much of like what we had to, like, I say this, endure in many ways, but like, so it was kind of an interesting, I remember last year reading it being like, oh, like it spoke so deeply to like my current experience
to like that
of grief. And now it's like feels really long ago, but the idea of requiem, of like remembering this act of remembering that time, so it doesn't happen again too, right? But anyway, sorry, I don't mean to start our book club. I just started it tonight.
You'll have plenty to, I'm really glad that you're leading it, because I'd be like, well, I don't remember anything other than this one thing. So.
Well, when you do send out the email, it would be great if you added, like, if you have like one or two that you really liked, or ones that you really hated or didn't understand at all, make sure to bring them. Okay, it goes for you too, sis.
Yep, I will do that. I usually do that when we do like short stories, or we've never done poems before, but I've asked people to do that before too.
Anthologies and things like that.
When we do stuff like that. So, and that, I think that does help a little bit, because then people are like, oh yeah, that is that one thing. I do want to maybe bring that up. So
bring that up.
So very good.
But anyway.
Anyway, it is 8:30, so we can wrap up.
That is what we're reading right now. I would love to hear what you guys are reading. Anything that you're loving, anything that you're like, I read it, but it was okay, because we have a lot of them.
We do have a lot of those.
Yeah, we do get a lot of those, but oftentimes they all have something of value. So,
I rarely pick up a book and like regret reading it. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't usually happen.
We rarely finish those ones.
That is true.
We've both gotten better about being like, no,
we can be done.
There are too many amazing books in the world to read bad books. So
agreed.
But otherwise, I think we will be back. Will it be the second? Did we decide?
Probably not, because that's the Super Bowl, and now I have to have a Super Bowl party.
Oh yeah, 12th. It won't be the 12th, people.
It won't be the 12th. That's the Super Bowl.
Later this week, I will put up another chance to vote for my February nonfiction poll. That's the word I was looking for. I'll put up a new poll for my February nonfiction. And then, yeah, we'll be back probably then the 19th, most likely, because I don't think we'll be back next week.
No, I mean, probably not. I don't know that we'd have anything like, you know, we're going to be basically reading the same stuff next week, you know, that we are right now. So, yeah, probably the 19th. Yeah, definitely on the 12th.
Probably the 19th.
Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah. And I'm busy. I have a thing on that day.
You do too. So. Yeah, you're busy. You're going to be at a Super Bowl party. It's football, you know, just in case.
No, I got that much down. I mean, I'm pretty, you do sometimes have to correct me, don't get me wrong, but I also impress people sometimes with the knowledge that I do actually have stored back there sometimes that I can pull out.
Well, now you know the Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. You know that one for sure.
Yeah, who did they play? Who did they play today? Who did they beat?
So this was kind of a big thing. I'll tell you why. They played the 49ers today, which is San Francisco.
Okay. Isn't that where what's-his-face is at?
That is where Brock Purdy is at,
I don't know.
who was the quarterback for Iowa State Cyclones for the last 4 years.
Oh.
He was picked last in the draft in the spring. He was their third quarterback on the roster. The first one
like third string?
What's that? Yeah.
Like third string. That's what you mean, like third string?
Yep. Their starter went down in the second game. Then the second guy went down about mid-season. And Brock Purdy has been the starter since mid-season and had not lost a game until today. And he also got hurt today, so he didn't actually get to play very much because he did get hurt early in the game. But
wow, is he from Iowa or is he just an Iowa Stater?
No, he was not from Iowa. I think he's originally from Arizona, but he started, I think, 4 years at Iowa State. Wow. He was their quarterback.
Wow.
I mean, he was their quarterback last year and like the 4 years prior.
So yeah. No, I got that.
Kind of a big deal. And then he was like picked last in the draft, and then he was like on this tear, really.
I feel like it's kind of like that story of that guy who came from the arena football, that quarterback guy.
Oh, you don't mean Kurt Warner? Kurt Warner.
I mean,
he was from UNI.
I know, it just is like similar themes, and it's all Iowa, you know, and it's about Iowa or Iowa things. Yeah, that's who I meant. You knew what I meant.
Which is totally weird, but I knew what you meant. Nobody else probably would have figured it out, but I knew what you meant. So anyway, that was the Brock Purdy story. And so he started today for the 49ers, but he got hurt really early in the game. And then it really did just kind of go downhill for the 49ers from there.
Like not hurt bad. Like he's fine.
No, he's fine. He actually came back in and played later in the game, but he got tackled. And when they tackled him, they hit his arm when he was throwing. And it like jerked it like back and like awkward. And they think it's an elbow injury of some sort, maybe ligaments or something.
That's too bad.
Yeah, so he couldn't really like grip the ball to throw it.
Oh, that's hard. Well. Yeah. You have to grip it first.
Handoffs after that, you know, where he didn't have to throw. So anyway, it went downhill for the 49ers after that, and I think we won 31-7. I think was the final score. So
okay. Well, good job, Eagles. Sorry, 49ers.
There we go. Eagles fly.
No, where's that Tom Brady guy now?
Tom Brady is at Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
But they're not in the Final Four. They're done.
They're done.
Sorry.
They lost in the first round of the playoffs. So.
Okay. I'm so impressed with myself for finding his name in the back of my head right now.
That was impressive.
To also be clear.
That was pretty good. Good job, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry.
Okay, we digress.
Well,
let's wrap it up so people don't have to listen to our football talk.
No one cares. We are not football commentators.
I know, we are not at all. It's bad.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Again, let us know what you're reading. Let us know what you think we should be reading. And have a really great night, day, whenever you watch this. All right. Bye.
Bye, everybody.